Everybody get an agenda? Anybody want an agenda?
No, it's other pages. Yes, I do. Here.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize.
He does not.
From one meeting to another one, a little late, so we will call this meeting of the Transportation Corridor Committee together. And first thing, we're going to stand and have the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with Ron Alberico. We'll go through and identify the members of the committee here at the table.
I'm Ron Alberico, Lockport Township Supervisor.
Good.
Stephen Straight, City of Lockport Mayor.
Pam Myers, Homer Township Supervisor.
George Yukich, Village of Homer, Glen Mayor.
Thank you. Larry Walsh, Will County Executive.
Lisa Dorji with Engineering for Joliet.
Ray Solomon, Mayor of the City of Crest Hill.
Thank you. So we got some issues to discuss this morning. I appreciate all the people here that take time out of their schedule. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Gould, and Bruce, if you want to lead us, we'll get started.
Sure. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, members. Since our last meeting that took place on November 4th, we've had a couple meetings with the Fairmont community, particularly some members from Shiloh Baptist Church, particularly Pastor House that we met at his facility. And there was discussion about the Fairmont community and about their voice in this whole process. Obviously, the corridor goes through probably pretty much the center of the Fairmont community. And because of that, we felt that with discussions with Pastor House and other representatives in the community, that their voice wasn't heard clearly for that particular location. And what we decided was to, myself, the executive's office, and the county board office were at these meetings. Mary, were you at there? Okay, the state's attorney's office wasn't there. But we made a decision that we thought would be a particular good arrangement to take to the committee, the TCC committee, the addition of a member of Fairmont community, so their voice could be heard, and they will have voting power from this point on. So with that being said, the discussion took place to have Pastor House, who's with us this morning, be the representative of Fairmont community, and there would be one additional member to the TCC, which would make 10 members of the community. So I think what we need to do is go forward and have a vote by the members here this morning and see if that is a viable decision.
Sure. Do you need a motion, Bruce?
Yeah, I would like to make, yeah.
I would make a motion to nominate Pastor House.
I would
Motion
second the
made
motion.
by the Mayor Lockport, Ron Alberico seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes, I just want to clarify on the agenda, it says Pastor House or his representative. Are representatives voting members of the TCC?
Well, normally what it is it's the designee by, if the person cannot attend, then it would be that member's designated person who would be a voting member.
Okay, so that applies to all the TCC members?
Absolutely.
If we are not able...
Yeah, if you can send a representative, has the authority by you to cast votes on your behalf.
Okay.
And that's going to be for Pastor House also, so everybody will be equal. Any other comments?
Quick question.
May the public raise questions about this proposal?
Go ahead. Wait 1 second.
I just wanted to clarify that the addition of a member doesn't invalidate the viability of the study to this point, correct?
Absolutely not.
No, I don't think there would anything from the public. This is a board action unless what's the board want to do?
At some point, don't they usually have public hearings when they make action?
Well,
When
yeah.
they vote on an action and such?
Yeah, there's always
public discussion, I mean,
opportunities
say,
to
I'm
talk, but this issue here, the only ones that are going to vote on this issue is board members. So there's a motion and a second on the floor.
I'll call the vote.
All in favor, Pastor House?
Well, before that vote is taken,
Where do you
can't there
want
be
the
any
information?
discussion? Can't there be any informational exchange here concerning?
As a board member, I don't particularly mind hearing what the
I don't-
board
Okay. Stand.
I'm not challenging the board to vote, I just thought
Okay.
having an open
If
discussion.
there's a question, if there's a question, stand and state your name and state your point.
My name is Carl Bedbridge. I'm a resident of Lockport Township. I live at the corner of Oak and Briggs. I've lived here for 38 years. And my question is, on what basis did the Transportation Corridor Committee make the decision to appoint Pastor House as the representative of the Fairmont area? I'm not necessarily opposing that. I don't want you to misunderstand that, but where did this come from? How did this arise? What is the rationale behind appointing him as opposed to any other person from the Fairmont area
I'll give
to
you
this
my
position?
rationale, because I kind of pushed this, I'm the one who kind of initiated this. When I saw the road going through Fairmont, I felt strongly that it's a good thing, but that people felt a bit disenfranchised because they hadn't fully understood or had an opportunity to share their concerns with it. That was important to me. So I reached out to the community with whatever leadership I could find. You know, you just don't know where the leaders are when you go to a community. So I went to the church, I went to Sonia Whitaker, I talked to Terry, who told me he had a voice. I didn't care who it was. I just needed to find out who it was. So after talking with a number of people and getting together and sharing, my thoughts on the road going through there and what it meant and what was the best way to get economic viability into that part of the world so that, the things that we all want to see happen in Fairmont can come to fruition, Pastor House's name kind of came to the surface. I support whatever name came up. I like Pastor House. I've worked with him. I've talked to him. He seems like a sensible person. When I heard that the community, however that came about, we didn't necessarily seek Pastor House, but when I heard his name came to the top, I thought that was a great choice for those very reasons. So I sought out leadership from Fairmont to be part of this.
Were any other names proposed?
Like I said, when I have to find out, where do I find a leader in Fairmont, where do you go, right? So I just basically started with the people that had the biggest voice. Terry had a voice, Sonia had a voice, House had a voice. If you had a voice, how am I supposed to know that? So
For
we reached
example,
out.
the Fairmont Community Partnership has a voice.
Okay, did you guys?
Nobody reached out
How did you
to-
guys, how did Pastor House's name come forward? As far as I know, it came from having some discussion within, and that this is the name that came forward. Do you guys have a particular problem with Pastor House doing it?
Steve, if I may interject, I think I may be able to help the situation.
Gentlemen, please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Terry Broadhurst, representative of Fairmont Community Partnership Group. Stakeholder in the community, also going to be a future resident of the community. Based on financial, we find that community is very, very viable for people that can't afford a lot more than that. And as we've seen in that community, there's been a renaissance over the last 6-7 years. People moving back to smaller homes and more affordable tax base, and even though we pay a high percentage tax base in that neighborhood, because the homes are smaller and less extravagant, taxes stay low. So there is a renaissance going on there, and me and Steve have talked about this. One of the concerns, and I think the concern from the community, is that as you guys reached out, and me and Steve did have a meeting, we talked, me, my wife, and Steve, we were representing Fairmont Community Partnership in that meeting. The problem is is that the person that you picked, and of course, before I get started, with all due respect to Reverend House, we've actually had a meeting since your discussions about bringing him aboard, and we actually fully support him stepping in and representing us. But let me clear the water. In all transparency, which I believe fully in, is that that's what we have to start doing from this part forward on this road, this corridor. Because the one thing we lacked in the beginning was transparency. So for this day going forward, transparency is going to be your biggest job, because we're going to be watching over everything you do through this corridor operation. We're first going to fight you tooth and nail to stop it. We believe that it's $300 million of wasted money to detour a road for 5 blocks to bring it right back to where you have the easements already granted and in place. So waste of time and money. Firstly, all the reasons why you created this shift for 5 blocks for $300 million by the time it's done really don't really hold a lot of weight until you put a bunch of nonsense together and then all of a sudden we got a reason to move it. We get all that. We did the timeline. We did the research. We get it. We understand what happened, but from this day forward, we just want to be transparent from here on out. So that way, even if you guys somehow bully this road through our neighborhood for 5 blocks for $300 million, we want to say that it can't be walled off with sound walls, which would be like prison walls in our neighborhood. It can't be a separate road next door to a road existing. We don't want 2 roads, one walled off and one with dead ends everywhere. We want the road to be interactive to the community, agreeing with Steve Straight that this is a chance to revitalize a community that needs it. It really does. We're not opposed to doing it, but we have to do it right. So out of transparency, I'd like to go back to what we were talking about, Reverend House. And Reverend House, please, I mean you no disrespect. But Reverend House has been at most of all the meetings prior to this. He knew about what was coming. Now, whether you showed him the detail that I've seen and brought forth in the community, maybe not. But Reverend House actually knew about it. He was at most of all the meetings. I don't know if he was at the private meeting at the Inwood, but he was at most of the meetings. So the people you pick to come and represent the 900 signatures that the Fairmont Community Partnership actually did the work to get, and I will say most of them, not most of them, but a good percentage of them come from his church. Neighborhood folks that used to live in the neighborhood and now come back to church. So out of transparency, I just want to put on the board and on the record that the person that you have picked pretty much knew about the road. And up until the protest that we created back in June, there was no protest. And I understand what he was doing. He's a very intelligent man. He figured, let everybody get this work done, this hard work done, and let everybody come out here and create the fight, and he's going to represent us, and I believe he's going to do a great job. But in transparency, we have to understand that we, as a community, and the work that we've done as a partnership, and as I've looked at all the different angles and all the different options and all the different road options, God, in the 6 routes that you originally looked at, in the 4 routes, Oak Avenue was in 6 different possibilities. So in all reality, on paper, it looks that this road was coming through Oak Avenue for one reason or another. I think everybody's got their own idea of what reason it's for. But what we want to say is that, yes, if you're coming through, come through correctly. Create some viable properties, some businesses, some commercial properties, some shopping, gas station, 101 things that everybody in that community would probably say, yes, this could be a great idea. But a walled-off super truckers highway with 100 tons and high traffic speed and dead ends all over our community, creating 4 separate communities, putting people that live on one side of the street to the other that are family, have to get in their car and drive around these sound walls.
We know all this. I agree with you. This is not what we're talking about right now.
Well, I'm sorry, Mayor, I just want to put it on the record for today.
Representative to be able to bring those concerns. Those have been my concerns that I've shared with you. They are my concerns too. And so I get it.
But
We
Mayor,
just asked if
can I just say
Pastor
one more
House
thing
is going to be
before
a fair
I
representative for
finish? I
you.
just wanna
That's
say
the motion on the
one-
table. We're not here to debate it right now.
So I heard the word twice today about economic stimulus to a community that this road was going to bring. If you look at the map that the Phase 1 has, none. Walled off highways separated from the community. So you explain
The
it.
same thing you did to me at my council meeting.
Bring your comments to a close.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. So I just wanted to finish by saying, if we're going to do economic stimulus and viability to a community, knock down the walls, don't make 2 roads, create a boulevard or something thereof to create some commercial. And that's what we're saying. Make sense out of this road. Put some common into our sense, save some dollars, maybe even create a few. Thank you for your time, and Mayor, I do apologize. Thank you.
I'd like to come back to the question I raised originally, which was how you came to the offer that you have at this point. What concerns me is process here, all right? Terry's comments notwithstanding and so on, neither one of our board representatives came to the community, okay, with your proposal in advance so that the community could have some discussion about it, all right? It was Pastor House who brought it to our attention, and I respect him for doing that. It gives the appearance, okay, of pre-selection of an anointed person rather than reaching out to a community which is going to be heavily impacted by this corridor if it should go through, okay? And so it's the process by which you're selecting additional members to sit on the committee that seems to me is in question here. That has not been a transparent process. It looks like a good old boy approach to adding a voice for the community rather than an open approach which could have involved our representatives. It did not.
Sure.
All right.
And you know what, that's actually a fair assessment. I'll tell you that, it's a
So
fair assessment.
I'll leave it at that. That's my main concern.
And for me, on my end, it's like Fairmont's not even part of Lockport. It's not even the city of Lockport. I just happen to have a heart for it because I understand the problems that are down there. And so when I've reached out to Fairmont, I don't know who to go to. It's not my city, but I care. The kids go to our high school. They're part of Lockport physically, but on this map, they're not. And so when I've reached out to them, I reached out to who I could find. It wasn't that it was a good old boy look. I'm just trying to find out somebody who I felt like could think the same way I do.
I appreciate those sentiments, but why not reach out through the board
Because it's
members?
not my city, and I didn't even know who to talk to.
But there are two board members who do represent the area, and you could have worked through them and maybe arrived at the very same point that we are right now. I don't know. I happen to like Pastor House, okay? I think he's a good man, but
I want to say something about being on the TCC. And not all of us have been committee members since the inception. Some are elected officials, it evolves, it changes. My understanding of being a representative on this committee is that we have a responsibility not only to say what we think is good for our community, but that needs to be based on input from our community. And so when we come to these meetings, and I'm sure Pastor House, I don't know him, I apologize, but I will get to know him. And I have to go back to my board, get direction. I have to put things on agendas so that my community can come in and weigh in. And I would hope that that's what's going to happen here. You all seem to respect the pastor. And so it's not a dictatorship. It's representative based on input from your community. So it sounds like you're all willing to work with the pastor. You have a great deal of respect for him. Maybe the process is or was flawed. I just got an agenda. I have no input in this agenda item. I'm here to listen. But I think we need to be clear that we should be, as members here, we should be working within our community and getting input from people, as many as we can. And now you know who, if this passes, who your representative is going to be. You should work very closely with them.
Can I?
why were our representatives not part of that process?
The committee didn't initiate the process. A member of the committee sought input from your community. If what you're asking for is for this board to acknowledge that a member from your community should be on the board, and then you go choose that person, that's possible.
No, I think you're missing what I'm getting at here. This is a committee, right?
It is, but this committee didn't go out to Pastor House.
I
answers
reached
to
out
the
to
board.
him. I reached out to Fairmont.
Committee
And I
did
have
reach
voice
out.
from you here.
Yes,
If you
and I
feel
understand.
that there's some kind of organization at Fairmont that was, I went around, I assure you, I didn't even know about you. If you feel like you guys want to go back and you need to table this so that you guys can all decide within your own community who wants to represent
We're
you,
not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Well, and I'm not proposing that.
We're not
Look,
going to do that.
don't misunderstand, all right? what I'm trying to get at is that we do have 2 board representatives, to which this committee reports ultimately, all right? That process apparently was never exploited. I appreciate your good intentions and wishes here, all right? But there is a process that could have been followed. None of us learned about any of this from our elected representatives, okay? We learned about it from Pastor House. All right.
Just to show you that Pastor House is trying to be straight up with you, and if he's been attending all the meetings and they live there, I don't understand where the
You're-
beef here, because
You're coming from your mind already made up about the
no,
situation.
I'm only a 8-month mayor right now, so I'm new to this too. I think it was horrible that they didn't have any representation in the first place, because it's going through their backyard too. So all the board did here, and I applaud the board for it, and Steve, because they brought them in, so they do have a say. And if I would kind of follow exactly what Steve did. If I didn't know anyone, I'd go to the pastor, the priest, whatever the case may be, because that's where the people have a comfortable relationship with, because they're seeing him at least every Sunday. And I think what
Are
they're
you
trying to
saying that
do.
you wouldn't involve the elected representatives of
He's
your-
saying if you didn't
If I didn't know anyone, he's
you didn't know
been
who
here.
even approach in the community.
Hey, Mr. Yukis, you clarify. So,
No, you're not recognized, young man. I'm sorry.
just thought I would just try to clarify
Well,
first.
that gentleman has floor yet, so
I'm just trying to understand the process here, and I appreciate your comments on this. I know all of you are trying to grapple with these issues, but we do have elected representatives, all right, who represent a conduit for reaching out to the community. And I'm not saying you can't go to anybody else. I'm saying, okay, you elected to go to somebody because partly of your background and familiarity with him and what he does and so on, and that's fine. But there was no process of going through the elected representatives to see if there were other options as well.
We didn't know there is elected
We don't understand the
representatives.
structure.
They're set on the board of Miller County.
We don't report to
I'm
you.
talking board. Okay, District 9.
you got 2 sitting here and writing.
Right. We've not heard word once from them about this occasion today about appointing Pastor House to the TCC.
Annette, you have your hand up.
Yes, if you're referring,
Annette Parker, County Board Member, District 9, and Lauren
And Lauren.
Stady Prairie, also from District 9, are here today.
And I recognize them.
if you're
Thank you.
referring to our participation, Lauren and I were part of the meeting with Pastor House. Once that meeting happened, notification was sent, I believe, to Terry and Valerie from either Bruce Freefeld or Gould. Is that correct?
I haven't received anything, so I don't know if you sent it to Belinda.
No, if I could,
Yeah, okay.
We have-
We send it to the community.
The Fairmont Community Partnership Group meets once a month. For the last 2 meetings, I don't believe either of you have been there.
No.
That would have provided time to bring this matter up for discussion, and there could have been a more open, that's what I'm trying to get at, is the openness of the process.
Did the foundation or the partnership, did they take the initiative to send an invitation to the county board members to come to?
Yes.
You did? You sent invites out to
There was an
them?
open standing invitation for them to attend any and all regular meetings.
Okay.
And we
And-
do attend, but we were unable to attend those meetings.
And the mayor and Ron from the township as township supervisor all had an open invitation to appear any time at your meetings?
Yes, Ron included. And he's been there on occasion.
And I've talked with Ron about reaching out to the fair. We've had our meetings. I go to Ron because his office is in the same, building as mine. So he's a
Well, I don't
representative of that
I don't wanna-
community.
I'm not trying to be confrontational or beat you guys down or anything like that. Please don't misunderstand. But I am concerned about the process by which this has occurred, and I think you could have handled it in a more appropriate manner, all right? And maybe we would have still wound up at exactly the same point that we're going to get at here in a few minutes when we vote, all right? Because he's a good guy. I'm not challenging that, all right? That's not the point. It's the process that I've always had concerns with, and I've expressed that to Pastor House as well. So,
Lauren, you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to say thank you both
Stand
for
up,
your
Lauren,
comments.
please.
Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you both for your comments. We appreciate them. It sounds like you're both in support of Pastor House. Annette and I do try to attend as many of the meetings as we can. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make the previous ones. But I guess my question to both of you is, what do you need from us right now to go ahead with the motion? It sounds like you're supportive of Pastor House as part of this committee, and we would like to move forward with that.
well, you've selected one candidate is what you've done, okay? There was no consideration of whether there might be more than one candidate. I mean, normally when you try to fill positions, okay, on any board or any committee,
Excuse us.
It's not so Jerry, you're not running the meeting.
So,
but anyway,
and I guess my question is,
that's the
what-
process that I'm
Right,
referring to.
and we understand, and I do thank you, and I'm sorry that we weren't able to attend. I'm just wondering, what can we do to move forward? What do you need what do you need?
This committee has every right to move forward as it so wishes at this
If I
point.
could just make a brief comment.
Comment, Bruce.
When the committee was first formed, we didn't go out to the cities, the villages, the townships, and take a vote. When we set the committee up, we made the decision that the community leaders would be the representatives or their designee. In the case of the townships, it would be the supervisors. In the case of the villages or the cities, it would be their mayors or president. In the case of the county, it would be the county executive. That's how the process took place. And then we invited them to be members of the committee. There was no democratic vote or anything for selection of those members. That's how that took place. As far as Pastor House is concerned, through meetings that we had with Fairmont community, with Pastor House, we heard he's a respected individual in the community and very well known, and we felt that he was the proper individual to represent Fairmont. That's how it came about.
All right, this brings us
That's
to
how
a
it came about.
collateral problem with what is meant by Fairmont. Is it just a small circumscribed area, okay, that is labeled on a map Fairmont? Or is it a broader area? There's an unincorporated...
You know, let me try to put it this way, because Bruce makes a good point. Your representative is right here. It's Ron Alberico. He's the township supervisor. He's the guy you come and complain to. He's the guy you come and cheer on. He's the guy, whatever it is in this problem, you come to Ron. I'm the guy who represents Lockport. There's not a citizen who's not elected official who's also up here. What we've done, what I've done, is gone above and beyond what this TCC is about and sought, can I get at least one citizen? Because I feel like Fairmont feels disenfranchised, and I don't like that. So I reached out to a place that I could find a citizen to also join the elected representatives on here. It's above and beyond what the TCC is about, so that you can have a voice. You're just upset because you don't, I don't know, is Pastor House the right guy?
If I could be recognized.
I understand your frustration on it.
Carl, if I could be recognized, and I am an officer of the Fairmont Community Partnership, and let me clarify and make transparent to you all the reach out that happened. Last June, we created a cookout to inform people of the road. Nobody knew about it. Then we started going with the Fairmont Community Partners Group that was in place. That Fairmont Community Partnership Group tried to dissolve the group because they were the ones that were involved with the Will County and this informational process. They actually held meetings and private meetings. I have the minutes and the sign-in sheets of those meetings. So out of transparency, before Reverend House was ever even brought to the table as a representative, we had 12 politicians, politicians/Will County representatives in meetings that we created as the representative group of Fairmont Community Partnership. So when you say there was no representation, you guys all were in our room way before you went to Pastor House. So when you say that, let me explain something to you. 900 signatures came in protesting this road. Maybe 300 come out of his church. There's a whole lot of people outside of his church that may not agree with everything you're saying. But the fact that you say you didn't know where to reach out, you were in our room with signatures on the table. So there were people representing Fairmont Community Partnership or the Fairmont community and with signatures in hand. And this, hold on, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Walsh, this was prior to reaching out to Reverend House. So don't say you didn't know where to go.
Yes,
Please.
So out of transparency, I'd just like to inform you that there were meetings way before Reverend House with representation of the Fairmont
We
Partnership.
understand that. We understand that.
So just for transparency.
May I ask a
I'd like to
question on the
clarify just
motion?
one point relative to Ron Alberico, okay,
last
because
panel.
you've pointed out to us that
He was in the meetings.
he is a representative for us, okay, is that correct?
Yep.
All right. Yet he never brought
None
this
of
matter
this.
to our attention.
None of it.
All
I was
right.
not at the meetings when
Oh, God.
this was taking place. I was unaware that Mr. House was being appointed until I got here today.
Me too.
So
May I
I
ask a
think,
question on the motion?
I'll be honest with
Is
you,
it
I was
possible-
not aware of this.
Pam, Pam,
Is it possible for us to just elect a representative from the community and let the community decide who their person's gonna be?
we offer an invitation, and the community can decide how to define itself.
Yeah, something like
They
that.
can decide how they elect.
We just
the
wanna make
person.
sure the
You know, I mean,
community is
yeah.
represented.
If you guys don't feel like you're gonna be able to put a citizen on here, along with the already elected officials on here, then we don't have to do it. You can just show up to these meetings and do what you're doing now. Terry's already gonna stand up and say everything he wants to say at every meeting from here on out, and that's fine, as it should be. But if you don't feel like you want a specific person on here because you feel like it's too hard to figure out who it's gonna be, then we just won't do it. We'll just keep it the way it is.
Of just elected
Okay.
officials. Well, and
Pardon
you
me,
should
but
reach out to your
I-
elected official.
Don't tar me with Terry's brush, okay? I'm my own person, and I've raised, I think, an entirely separate issue here. I'm not trying to be confrontational with you, and I sense that coming back from you on this. Having a representative from the area is a good idea, because there hasn't been a voice for the area, and that's larger than just the collection of houses, okay, that are designated the Fairmont community area. We thought that our board representatives might perform that role for us. Maybe it's an oversight of mine. Ron Alberico has a role in this as township supervisor, okay? And, you know, there should have been communication among the elected representatives, okay, of which there are 3, not just 2, okay? And it didn't happen. And that's the process that I've been trying to get at in order to establish that we do this in an orderly fashion. And it's coming in back door-wise rather than front door-wise is how it appears, all right? And I don't mean to, you know, pick on Pastor House, because he is a good and decent man, all right? And maybe that's who we need to sit on this.
You know what?
I wouldn't be
I
opposed
take full
to it.
responsibility. I do. I take full responsibility. I talked to Ron a little bit about this, about how do we get Fairmont a voice. We talked a little bit. I never approached Annette or Lauren. Honest to God, I never did. I never thought to do so. And I just took a proactive stance and said, man, I'm going to reach out there and try to find somebody so that Fairmont can have a voice. I take full responsibility for feeling that you got, this was some
And
good
it's
old boys thing. I assure
Those
you,
things happen.
there's no good old boys nonsense going on.
There was-
It was me just trying to
Unfortunately,
reach out and give Fairmont a voice.
There was
I
no
take full
plan.
responsibility for your feelings. I get it, man. I understand your frustration. I
There
apologize.
was no plan on trying to push somebody into this position. What we did, what we thought was, because of the Fairmont community, we took it upon this board and Bruce Gould to recommend enlarging this board committee by one person that specifically was going to represent the Fairmont residents and the Fairmont community. And that was all that was it intended. Now, if the process that was taken just by discussion among the committee members of doing this, if that process is not satisfactory, then I suggest that we push this off and we'll present something to the community and an option, and if they want to make a appointment and recommend an appointment and bring it back to this committee, we'll do it that way. Mayor,
I
Ron?
don't have a problem with that. I apologize, Richard, for dragging you out here. I thought it was being a no-brainer. You're a respectable guy. Even Terry and this other gentleman know that. This is not about you. I'm sorry, what's that, sir?
My name's Carl.
And Carl, even they know it. It's my fault for process.
Yeah, this is,
I would ask then, if I ask to withdraw my motion, that Annette and Lauren reach out into these community, this group that you guys have formed, see if you guys can all agree on who the representative is. I do like House. I think he's a sharp guy, and I think he's fair. I don't think he's a hothead. I think he understands too. We all agree on, the walls and all the other stuff that Terry had. I just want a voice that I think is reasonable so that we can come to solutions.
so,
And I understand where you're
before,
coming from on that, and I don't disagree.
before we move on, we got a number of county board members. Lauren, you wanted to make another comment?
Yeah, I just was going to see. if we
Lauren,
could-
please stand.
Sorry,
So-
if we could move forward with the motion, we keep Pastor House, but if you want to move forward with what
It's not my
Executive Walsh.
wishes here. I mean, you guys,
I guess my point is that Annette and I are here to work with you. We've been trying to attend the meetings, and we are here to work with you and Pastor House, continuing on this corridor project. We will be, informing you of any meetings, and you're, welcome to voice your opinion. That's what we're here for, and that's what we really want to do. And so, we just want, I just want to know what else you needed. If you want to move forward with the.
I think the issue's been sufficiently elevated, all right? That maybe in a sense, the people have gotten the attention of our elected representatives, all right? Whatever you do as a committee, that you're within your prerogative to do that. I just wanted to surface this as a process issue, not as a confrontational thing. I know you've acted with good intentions. I'm not questioning that. It's the process. It hasn't been very open, all right? And I expressed those concerns to Pastor House when he met with us.
We understand that. Denise Winfrey?
Good morning. I'm Denise Winfrey, Will County Board, District 8, and that was formerly in my area. I've spoken with you and your wife before, Mr. Beveridge. I just want to say, from what I'm hearing here, it sounds like you actually have no opposition to Pastor House, and that you would be willing for him to be seated today with this committee. Your concern is strictly on the process, which has been acknowledged that there was an opportunity to manage that better. Is that correct? Yes. And your two county board representatives, Annette Parker and Lawrence Stady Ferry, have agreed that going forward they will work more closely with you to try and manage that process better. So at this point, I would say that we should be able to see Pastor House as the community representative with the agreement that these two will work with you as well as him to move this process forward. Would that be acceptable to you?
Sounds like we have no other choice.
Is that acceptable to you?
I disagree. Can we end the conversation style of the meeting for just a minute?
Wait 1 minute.
Because we've got a vote on the table, and I think the person who motioned it wants to rescind it.
I'm willing to do that.
Opportunity to discuss that.
County board members.
I'm asking about you personally. Would that be?
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, I got it.
We have our hand up.
Okay.
Still the floor. So it sounds like we should be able to move forward.
Tom Weigel, county board member, would you like to make a comment at this time?
It's not about this appointment. I have a comment about the middle route.
Well,
I'd like to
okay,
do that later.
if we continue with this meeting, you will be. Pastor Brooks, you.
My name is Herb Brooks, and as leader of high-ranking Will County Board, I had to defend the county board members because Lauren and Ned have done due diligence. And Mayor Steve, I know that perhaps you may not have contacted, but I know they've been very in touch with the Fairmont community. As representative of Will County Board, we represent over 55,000 residents. And Fairmont is a small portion of their district, but a very important part of their district. They cover Crestfield, a lot of Joliet. So I know during the time of that process that the meeting went forth, I knew Annette Parker couldn't make it because you and I had some dialogue at a meeting. Lauren Ferry had 2 deaths in her family in 1 week during that time, so I know she couldn't make it. But we're very much in tune to that. And I think that moving forward, it would be important to have their input. And lastly, I have no problem with Pastor House. Personally, Mr. Chairman, I think you should move forward with this nomination and then meet with this group at a later date. Thank you.
We have a question.
Question, the young lady.
So my name is Melissa Schroeder. I'm actually the daughter of Dick and Lydia, daughter-in-law of Dick and Lydia Schroeder. And my question is, so my understanding is that the committee, the purpose is of the committee members is to represent the community. So if we do elect Pastor House to be a representative and kind of go against those rules or guidelines, can we then elect different sub-members? So for example, those who they have property in a firm that's within that.
You know what, forgive me for opening a can of worms.
Yeah.
Your representatives are the people that know.
Yeah,
George calls me
so
5
my-
times a day.
my question
so
would be-
I already, George has a voice through me.
Yeah, and so
My fault.
if we do that, and it sounds like a viable, so if Fairmont is more important, then there's several impacted groups. I would just be concerned that if we deem them more important, that there's several individuals that are impacted.
I need to address that.
Yeah,
Please,
okay,
Claire.
please go.
Because it's not that they're more important. It's that they've never felt that they've had a voice up till now. George calls me 3 times a day, okay? He doesn't anymore, but he used to. I know he calls everybody else 3 times. George has had a big voice. George doesn't need another representative on the TCC. It doesn't matter. Fairmont are the folks that I felt had no voice and felt like totally bamboozled by all of this. And I felt like it was never sat down and explained. I reached out because I actually cared that they were getting, felt railroaded. So that's why I reached out to them, because they haven't had any voice. They're not special. It's because they felt disenfranchised all the way up until now. It's like here's the mindset, all right? Let's just put it on the table. The mindset is we're talking about realigning the middle route because George Schrader is always up here bitching about it, right? That's been the whole feeling. And Fairmont feels like we're a whole community and we don't want it. One guy over there on the other side complains and the TCC is constantly discussing how to reroute it, but Fairmont gets... So I said, that's just not right. So that's why I reached out to Fairmont. That's why. It's not because they're more important. It's because up till now they felt like they haven't had any voice.
And there was one more, but yes, ma'am.
Well, if you do this
Would
and...
you stand and state your name, please?
I'm Lydia Schroeder. If you're setting a precedent by electing a citizen to represent a certain area. So are you going to do that by, your board is made up of elected officials. And now you're going to put a regular citizens, you're setting a new precedent.
Yeah, you're right. I opened a can of worms.
You cannot, I don't think you should do it or can do it.
I still feel strongly about that it's the right thing to do.
I understand that, but then the representation from Fairmont should be a little stronger by those people that represent them, but not selecting a citizen, because then you have all these other areas. You have Homer Town, maybe are you gonna select a citizen from all these other areas? No, you're setting a new precedent, and that's my feeling.
Yeah, and you know what, honestly, it's trying to overcome a lot of years of feeling like Fairmont's been ignored. All right? It's really what it's about.
But now there's citizens that are speaking.
You got a point. Comment.
Yeah, I think that what we want to do is go back to the person who made the motion and ensure whether or not he wants to hold that.
No, let's put some.
You know what, I'm gonna hold my motion. You can vote it up or down. I'm making a motion to nominate Pastor House.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor? Let's, roll call.
Yeah, let's roll call.
Let's roll call. Ron Alberico?
Yes.
Mayor Strike?
Yes.
Pam?
Well, I'm conflicted with the last statements. I have to say, I am in favor of Fairmont having representation because I was told years ago that Fairmont had the public hearing, Fairmont was okay with all of this and whatever. Now I'm learning that's not true. So I feel that that is a separate situation. But I'm concerned about creating new members on the committee going forward that could affect the final votes and could change the voting balance. So I'm going to say yes, but I don't believe I would be open to just willy-nilly allowing future appointments to the board.
Mayor?
And I agree with what Pam had said. They need representation. They should have had representation from the beginning. So, yes.
Juliet?
I'm gonna say no. I would prefer that they work through their elected person, and maybe additional meetings would be appropriate to make sure that their voice is singled out and brought to the table, but I think the precedent is a valid concern, and I'm not willing to give them that.
Mayor
I
Sullivan?
believe Fairmont should have had a voice from the beginning. I believe that, we're all up here as elected officials, but the elected officials change also. And there's always going to be a new set of elected officials that are going to sit at this table. It has happened since the inception of this TCC board. The Fairmont community should have a voice, whether it's Reverend House or somebody else, but if he cannot be here, he has the opportunity, just as we do, to appoint a delegate for that meeting. So I will vote yes, that I think that they should be a part of this committee.
And I will vote yes. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. 6 to 1. And Pastor House has been appointed to serve on this board, representing the Fairmont community.
Okay.
So moving on.
Pastor House,
Pastor House. Pastor House, Mayor. We'll move on to an update and discussion. Maybe first off, Pastor House, if you want to make any kind of comments.
Just a quick comment. I really appreciate the committee even considering this. And I'm sorry for all the confusion. I tried to remove the confusion at the beginning when I came to the Fairmont Partnership as Mayor Homer, again, George, as George said, I was being completely upfront. That's where I've always been. That's where I operate with integrity. That's where I plan on operating with complete open integrity, representing the Fairmont community. I've been there 61 years. I don't live in the community, but I've been there as a church member 61 years. I've been pastoring there 25 years. And if my integrity is in question on representing the community, I'm sorry about that. That's not me. That you have questions about, that's something else. So I plan to represent as best I can the whole community of Fairmont. And Fairmont is a very diverse community. So there are a lot of different voices. So I thank you again for your vote of approval. I hope to serve the community well.
You said no.
You don't live there?
You said no.
No.
Born and raised there.
I mean, I may as well live there. I've been, like I said, been there 61 years.
Well, thank you, Pastor House. Next we move on. Bruce, you want to give us an update?
Yes.
About what's happening?
Yes, Mr. Executive. I'll try to make this brief. I know there's been a lot of time. I didn't expect it to carry on this long, but I just want to give all the members a update on what has transpired since we all met on November 4th. We had a meeting November 4th. At that meeting, and I've got some notes here, so I'm going to kind of read them as I'm going along. The meeting primarily discussed the corridor revisions at the eastern terminus was the basic discussion at that November 4th meeting. And there were really three issues that came up at the meeting. One was consider an interchange at I-355 and Bruce, and then a north-south movement to I-355 and 159th Street. That was one of the discussions that took place. Another one was have a frontage road along I-355 linking Bruce Road to 159th. And then thirdly, use Cedar Road or Gauger Road corridors to 159th Street, which were, one was in the preferred alignment, preferred alternative. The other one was one that we had discussed years before, but then we took it out. So since that TCC meeting, the FHWA liaison for IDOT retired as of December. So we didn't have a liaison. We were going to try to move forward and get this thing going, but there was not a liaison for the FHWA. So until that person was appointed, we had nobody to discuss not only this project, but other projects. And we have various federally funded projects that we have to go through the FHWA. So the liaison was appointed sometime in January. And at that time, to introduce not only our staff, Will County DOT, but our various projects that we have, including this one, we made an appointment to meet with the appointee. And we met with them a month ago in February. February 9th, we met with the liaison for the FHWA. Part of the discussion included the Cape Farm Bruce corridor and utilizing I-355 as part of the Eastern Corridor. What the liaison said was, because 355 is a toll road, he would have to go through Washington and get a clarification of what can or cannot be utilized when we're linking a toll road with a federally funded project such as this. So that's how that was left. We have not heard back from him yet.
What's the new person's name, Bruce?
His name is Chris Byers, and I think it's B-Y-A-R-S.
Correct, and he's for the entire District 1.
And then another thing that we talked about was, because of the interchange with the Illinois State Toll Authority, we are going to move forward to have a meeting with the Toll Authority because of the potential of an interchange at Bruce Road and 355. There is right-of-way that has already been designated for that interchange. We'll sit down with the Toll Authority, make a meeting, and see what we can or cannot expect from them from this meeting. And then one of the last things, county indicated that TCC has requested a meeting with the county, IDOT, and FHWA to discuss and review the middle alignment and the resulting NEPA implications. It was indicated that this meeting would likely be held at the Will County Administrative Office, where we are this morning. Would be attended by a couple, or we'll see what the committee decides on what attendees the committee would like to see as part of this meeting. FHWA indicated they were open to this meeting, would get back to the county on likely attendees and availability. Okay, so the action items, I think that I can, just to put all this together, is 3. FHWA will provide further clarification on whether a toll road can be included as a link within the preferred alternative for an otherwise non-tolled facility. Secondly, the county will coordinate with the Illinois Tollway to get their feedback on a potential interchange with Bruce Road and I-355. And lastly, FHWA will get back to IDOT and the county concerning a future meeting with representatives of the TCC to discuss the implications of reviewing and potentially modifying the middle alignment portion of the preferred alternative and or eastern project terminus. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's my summary of where we are. And I apologize if we didn't get this done sooner, but what happened was, well, there was a couple of things. We had our meeting in November, obviously, when we went through the holiday season, but then we had our liaison that retired. So since then, we've reached out to the FHWA and met with them briefly in February, and that's where we are today.
All right.
Any questions by the committee?
I was under the impression that there wasn't a Chris Byers yet, and that we were still waiting for that person. Would have preferred that we had a representation there with you. I know we didn't want to sit there and talk about every other project that you presented them with. It sounds like that's a more informal meeting, so that's fine. I just didn't want to get, I just didn't want one side presented. So I was a little concerned about that. But it sounds like they're at least open to talking to Washington. Since then, I have reached out, as I promised. I reached out to Representatives Foster, Lipinski, about this very situation. They, when you look at the map, they understand the wisdom of connecting to the highway, but they also understand the federal dollars thing. They've told me that it's not the first time something like this will have happened if it goes, if we connect to the highway. They said that they would look into it. They also, Congressman Lipinski referred me to some folks at the governor's office who asked for a summary, which kind of made some graphics and showed them what we thought, connecting to the highway would look like and why we felt like it was a more cost-effective and actually have a better route for the economic vitality of the region. So that was the last we heard, is that we were able to give it to the representatives from the governor's office as well. So we've reached out. We've started the reaching out to Washington, so to speak, and Springfield, see if we can't get everybody on board with if we can make that kind of connection.
Any other comments, committee?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you reach out, are you reaching out just as the city of Lockport, or are you reaching out as this community?
I guess probably as City of Lockport. I really didn't think too much about it, but I will make sure that if I'm going to reach out as a TCC person, I will ask if anybody else wants to show up too. Because the interchange is so much part of Lockport, and probably we'd have to pony up some money for it, because that was what we had to do with the other interchanges. I saw it as a City of Lockport issue.
And I completely agree. I just don't want to have another issue like this one where something comes to the agenda and the implication is that the whole committee was aware of the situation.
If I can make a comment, I think there's been a premise in some prior meetings that those communities affected more directly from the eastern portion of 355 have kind of led this kind of grassroots discussions. We've all had conversations with other members of the TCC that seem to be, for the most part, in support of our actions, as long as it doesn't cost them more money or more time in regards to the project. I think some of that may be not be able to be avoided. At some point we may have to put some more money in. I'm not saying the other members, but the members that are pushing this initiative. And ultimately it may cost us another 18 months, but I think our voice is that another 18 months on a plan that's not going to be probably worked on for 20 years is probably worth the investment if we can get everyone on board and be happy with the approved route. And I'll make one suggestion: instead of maybe having a meeting in a tight forum like this, as the crowd continues to grow, I'd offer up the Lockport Council chambers. We've got big AVs and a pretty good sized room, or maybe you want to use the county, the Public Works Committee forum or something, maybe a little broader in regards to future meetings when everyone's attending.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else on the committee? Question? County Board Member Tom Weigel.
I'd like to make a comment. Discussion about changing the middle route, and one of the original alternatives was Cedar Road, and it recently came to our attention that the county is going to improve Cedar Road to 5 lanes. They're now planning to build a bridge over Spring Creek to 5 lanes, to make it 5 lanes from Route 6 over to 159th Street. So you could take this road all the way to Cedar Road and then go north on Cedar Road. And not necessarily, if you go by the interchange, that interchange could be added at a later date. Why wait for the interchange and wait for the feds or whatever? So this, I think you should consider that as an alternative, rather than taking up additional farmland and having a parallel road running parallel to Cedar Road, which is going to be improved to 5 lanes anyway. So I hope you take that into consideration.
Thank you, Tom. Any other comments? Bruce?
Yeah, if I could just make a brief comment
yeah,
to that.
Yeah.
That was one of the alignments that we looked at prior to the 6 preferred alternatives moving forward. And it was removed early on for supposed negative impact because of the schools and because of the township hall. And the representatives from that area were not in favor of that alignment. So we removed that. But that was one of the options that we discussed, but it was taken off the table.
Well, let me ask you this, and probably George, you can help with this better. Was it taken off the table because the hope was that it would never get widened and it would remain the size road it is? Then why not? I mean, I don't get it. If I know you were against widening it, and that's fine, I didn't have a problem with that. I've been pushing for the connection to the highway. But if in fact it gets widened,
Anyway.
it's double crazy. I don't understand why we don't move forward.
Well, with hearing what he just said, what you have right now is the center alignment was gonna go, it was gonna move like a block further west. So now you have a very high traffic road behind the school, and then the very next street is another street that divides the two schools. So you're gonna have one school surrounded by 5 lanes in the front if it's going down Cedar, and another road going behind. So to me, that's, you can't do that to the kids.
So are you in favor of Cedar?
If it went straight down Cedar, I'd rather see it go straight down Cedar than have it go front and back of it.
Okay, how about the township?
Well, to be honest with you, I would bring this back to my board, but I think that that was one of the original options. And if you're widening Cedar anyways, I think my board, and we did discuss a lot of this stuff that we learned at our meeting on Monday night, I think my board's goal is to have the least amount of impact. So if sandwiching a school between two major roads, because Cedar, as I've learned, is being widened regardless of whether or not, why would you do that? So I think the reasonable thing, I will be more than willing to bring it to my board if that's an option, but I've been of the understanding that none of this was an option.
Right.
No, what we said was, and in fact, when I did my summary, I said one of the viable options could be, one of the alternates could be Cedar or Gauger. But what we need to do is sit with the feds and see, okay, if we did make a decision on one of those corridors, what we have to do to get where we are today.
Right.
That's what we have to see.
I believe
and what kind of cost it's going to bear on.
Right. I believe before I was supervisor, the township board passed a resolution to use existing roads. They will have to revisit their resolution. They had forwarded that to the county. I don't believe that it was the township that had the issue. I believe it was the village that had the issue with Cedar Road. So that's all I can answer right now.
I think it was the township, but...
Well, it wasn't when I was supervisor.
Yeah.
I can't answer.
Before. Lady in the back, right behind Tom, you
When
had
he
your
said,
hand up.
when he said the reason that it wasn't viable was because of the village hall. There's a village garage there. The village hall for Homer is not anywhere on Cedar. So at the time, way back when they did that study, the consultants you had assumed that the village hall was going to go on Cedar, and then you had the school. The village hall is not even there. That's not even...
There is a town hall, but the town hall is not going to be, unless we haven't gotten our information yet, to the best of my knowledge, the plans you have to widen Cedar Road isn't going to take away the town hall unless we're embarking in something that I'm waiting to have a shoe drop. So, I mean, as long as the town hall is still functional, and it sounds like it isn't going to matter anyways because you're already widening it. So I know we've given you additional easement in Cedar Road there in front of the town hall. I know that happened in the 60s or 70s. I've not been notified of any other additional land needed for the town hall. So I don't think the town hall would be a reason. I believe the village had concerns about a high impact SRA going in front of the schools and stuff from looking back on some of the old records and whatever. But again, I can't speak for that because I wasn't a member of the TCC at the time.
And I still have to talk to my board on it, but if you're gonna widen it anyhow, you're gonna widen Cedar no matter what difference does it make? You know, you can't separate it like they mentioned before. You can't be putting big walls up in front of them. And do you plan on eventually widening Gauger?
I think that's in the 2030 plan as well.
It is.
I'd like to address that.
Okay, well,
And Cedar is in the 2030 plan, or it's going to happen much sooner?
it's in our 2030, but we can't guarantee when that's going to happen.
But it wouldn't be before?
Oh, no. It's within the next 15 years.
Well, they're doing the bridge now.
The upgrade of it is a possibility.
Then all I would like you to do for us, and I can run it before the board, actually, you can do it tonight. Give me some sort of idea of point A to point B where you're going to be in front of the schools, so we have at least an idea there, because that's our biggest concern. I mean, you got first through fourth grade on both sides of the street.
Well, okay, at this point in time, obviously, I don't have plan specs and everything. Basically, what we would look at, if we're looking at a 5-lane cross-section, we're looking at 75 foot of right-of-way or 150 foot. But, so that basically is what we'd be looking at.
On both sides or?
75 foot on both sides.
Okay.
Juliet, you had a?
I just was going to issue a caveat that the reason that you're widening that is due to traffic demands now, and that you should probably reach out to the consultant to determine what the ultimate cross-section would be required to handle the traffic loads of the new SRA in addition to what you already anticipate, because it might not be that you accept a 5-lane in order to accommodate that other traffic. It might even be wider, and that might be one of the reasons that require the shift. So
I appreciate you saying that. That's kind of where I was going to. So I don't want to say yes until I know the full repercussions.
You don't want an 8-lane, you'd rather split it in
You couldn't
half.
put an 8-lane, you'd have to knock the schools down.
Well,
Exactly,
that's
and that
why,
might be one of the-
and that could have been one of the reasons it was taken out.
That's what I
a decade
remember.
ago.
That's what I remember, but I wasn't on that
Go ahead,
side.
Ron.
I just can't imagine. Ron Alberico?
My issue here is that whether we make Cedar Road 5 lanes, Galver Road 5 lanes, we got Weber Road 4 lanes, we gotta go across the river.
Right.
That's the biggest problem here. That's what we're here to do, get across the river.
And we couldn't-
And nobody's looking at that. We're talking about north-south lanes.
Well, that's because everybody agrees on the bridge, Ron. It's just that these end points, well, a little in the middle and the end is where we've been having the concerns. And until we 100% all agree on it, then the whole project is hard to move forward with the funding and everything. So we gotta dust up these ends. And
Christine?
I hate to do this to you, Bruce, but the Cedar Road portion that is in the 2030 is actually the SRA.
Right, that's the piece from Bruce to 159th
Right,
Street.
so
That is correct.
so what that was the placeholder for this project. So that section of Cedar Road may not have to be widened at a future date if the alignment changes. That just is a placeholder for this project. When they did the 2030 plan, we didn't have an alignment for this, we didn't have a preferred alignment for this project. So all we did for planning purposes was we knew that the SRA was going to go Bruce Caton Farm to go, and that was the alignment, so they just
Yeah,
put
on
out.
the 2030 plan, it shows that.
I saw that.
Yeah, Bruce Road, Cedar Road to 159, and it also shows Cedar Road, Bruce Road, south to Route 6.
Right, and we talked about that earlier, because I was confused, because it was still showing Cedar Road as an SRA. And so I guess for clarification for me, so are we saying that regardless of the 2030, what I thought, and Mr. Weigel was bringing up as well, because I've had residents contact me in Homer Township about being impacted by the bridge project, which you all are embarking upon, and I don't think that's a secret. That's a planned immediate project that it was supposed to go to 5 lanes.
Correct.
And so I guess with what everybody just brought out, I wasn't thinking about the 2030 in the SRA. I was thinking if you're putting in a 5-lane bridge, you're probably anticipating making Cedar Road 5 lanes.
And that's the reason why we're doing exactly that.
Okay.
So we don't have to go back 5-10 years from now and widen. So
Lady behind Tom Weigel. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I understand the purpose of an SRA is to speed traffic. So what better way than Cedar that's going to be widened, possibly Gauger, I-355 that's going to be right there. instead of taking this middle alignment, it is gonna bring all this traffic one way north, right into 159th and Cedar, and jam up the whole works. I mean, it makes no sense.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but watching this 159th Street widening, they're not even accounting for a middle alignment. They would have to knock out these kind of, if they haven't even assumed that it's happening. The intersection makes the most sense at Cedar, even the way they're building out 159th Street now. Am I wrong on that, or?
No, you're correct.
No, I agree.
You're correct.
Ben Benson? Ben, did you have a comment?
No, I'm good, thank you.
No, but,
The gentleman in the front row?
Yes, sir, thank you. Darren Deskin, I'm one of the aldermen in Lockport. I'm glad we're bringing up the 2030 plan, because the 2030 plan has played foremost in my thought process about this thing for a long time. Yes, it's true that many, many years ago, this Bruce Road, Cedar Road route was not approved. Now, according to the minutes that I've read, it was not approved simply because of right-of-way acquisitions and potential wetlands issues. This was before March of 2009 when the Will County 2030 plan was approved. So what we have here is a document which is superseding what happened here at the TCC by about 6 years. So the 2030 plan has the routes has a 4-lane route from Gauger Road, from Route 6 down to Bruce. The plan has a 4-lane or 5-lane route from Route 6 along Cedar Road to 159th, which the county, just in the past month or so, has begun the condemnation process for the bridge over on Spring Creek to get ready for the 2030 plan. And Bruce Road, the original plan within the 2030 plan, is a 4-lane from Route 171 all the way out to Cedar Road. That's the route. That's the route that was rejected by this committee 2001 or 2. However, this very route that was rejected is in this document. Okay? Now the only, yes ma'am, it is. It is. It is. So the only thing that's changed in this whole thing is the fact that due to the proximity of the locks and the Dragonfly, the road has been, the bridge has been shifted south. That's the only thing that changed. So we've got to, so from Lockport's point of view, from Darren Deskin's point of view, it is, let's go ahead and use the roads that currently exist. Cedar Road is going to be improved. It's in the 2030 plan. Bruce Road is in the 2030 plan. It makes more sense to go and end the road at 355. It's being addressed. Okay? A year ago, it wasn't being addressed. It's being addressed now. We'll find out more when we actually go ahead and meet with this. I believe that's the best thing for the entire area is east of Gauger Road. How we get to the intersection of Bruce and Gauger, it's open, you know, that's still open to debate. But from that point on, it's either improve Bruce Road to Cedar Road and make this the same route that was rejected many years ago. What's in the 2030 plan? Let's just use the roads. It will save millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. And as elected officials, we have to go ahead and look at what's the most fiscally responsible thing to do. And what is not responsible is to go ahead and build a new road between Division Street, between Bruce Road and 159th Street. One thing that also has not been brought into the discussion is the Route 7 improvements that are going on right now. I've looked at the intersection of Bruce and Cedar. What IDOT will not, unequivocally, will not allow is encroachment into their new intersection with the proposed terminus as it is now. How do I know that? Is because when IDOT was in Lockport a couple of years ago, when we were discussing the raised median, there's only 4 openings in a 2 or 3 mile stretch. They refused to go ahead and have more openings off of Route 7. Lockport, many years ago, a couple years ago, we were looking at a potential commercial business out on Cedar Road. It was rejected by Will County because Will County was not going to go ahead and allow another cut into this property due to the fact within the 2030 plan that this road was going to be widened. I just think we need to use some common sense. Yes, we have to go back a few years. Yes, it's cost the county and taxpayers some money. Okay, but it's better to go ahead and go back a couple of years and then go ahead and spend a small amount of money than to build a road that is probably going to be rejected by the commuters. People are going to, if they're coming over the bridge, they're going to go Bruce Road, they're going to avoid 159th Street, and they're just going to go east along 167th Street down 108th Avenue, whatever it is. That's what's going to happen. We just have to go ahead and look at what the logical thing is. So that's where I am right now. So that's just where we are.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Richard Schroeder in Homer Township. Just want to read a comment that I sent in on February 16th during the comment period for the 2040 plan. And I'll just go through it quickly and then I have a couple comments. A successful, well-planned community is a result of following a good comprehensive plan and the development of an adequate complementary transportation system. Good planning must be followed for both since they are both intimately related. Good guidelines and resource materials for planning our roads are available from CMAP. CMAP and other good planners tell us we should build upon, utilize, and develop our adequate present framework of roads. These good planning resources guide us to select an existing road for our future SRA. In our area, Bruce Road should be connected to I-355 via an already planned interchange. A terminus point for the SRA can be located at I-355 in Bruce or remain at 159th and Cedar Road. In the latter case, a fair, moderate toll fee for vehicles exiting I-355 at 169th Street east of the terminus point can be handled electronically. You can charge zero, you can charge whatever you want. It can be credited, it can be deficit. No physical modification to I-355 is needed for this purpose. Other roads such as Gauger or Bruce east of I-355 and Cedar can be improved to handle local and supplemental traffic electing to travel on these roads to their destinations. It's obvious that the middle route is unnecessary and a damaging intrusion into the area. Not building the middle route will conserve perhaps $100 million of capital expenditures and future maintenance fees. Saving these dollars will make the Des Plaines River Bridge project more viable by reducing costs and reducing construction time. Also, the elimination of the proposed middle route will avoid destroying the tax base in this road's footprint and will keep the Lockport comprehensive planning map and development in growth intact as it should be. And I'd like to agree with the other speakers here that said, when you get over on Bruce Road to Gauger Road, you've got three choices. You'll be able to take Gauger, that will be improved. You'll be able to take Bruce east to Cedar, that will be improved. Or you'll be able to take I-355 via a new interchange. You've only got 4 lanes of traffic on the bridge. And when you get to that point that I just described, you'll have another 11 to 13 lanes to distribute that traffic over, not concentrate it on a impractical middle route. So I agree with the other speakers that made the same point.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
Sir, just one last thing. Going back a little bit, I'd like to add to what Mr. Deskin said. Going back to, all the way back to 355, as I was following that project, at that time, just building a home in Lockport, what the state had granted for feeder arteries to 355 and feeder arteries for the community was a straight line from 53 over the river down Bruce to Cedar Road, 4 lanes over to 159. Buy your own maps, Lockport Township, Homer Township maps, even the Will County and state maps. Bruce Road and all of those roads I just mentioned are existing feeder arteries. So what you're doing through the Fairmont community and how you're creating a new highway through the Homer district is your guys' choices. You guys changed what the state had already set forth as feeder arteries. Again, let's put some common into our sense and save some dollars. Straight line between 2 points as the crow flies. Straight line between 2 points saves us a fortune. Thank you.
Any last comments? Any last comments? Bruce, fine, finish up.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna set up this meeting with the feds. They're gonna give us some dates. Who on the committee wants to attend?
Well, Lockport will attend.
Okay.
I would like to attend.
We would too.
Okay.
Full committee.
Well,
More of us that are not
Go
here.
ahead, Raymond.
I'd like to know what the agenda is. If it's
Astor House.
with regard to the study, yes.
Yeah, well,
If it's
well,
with
and
regard
this is
to
what
the-
we're gonna.
To the routing, then.
Yeah, as what I started off the summary that I knew, there's some options that we looked at. Couple were the Cedar Road and Gauger Road alignment. Also terminus at I-355. Can it not be done? And the frontage road, there was talk of a frontage road linking Route 159th Street and Bruce Road. So those are the kind of options that we're going to discuss at the Fed meeting, see what we cannot do, where this is going to put us on the timeline, how far back is it going to take us, and then from that point, then we can do our cost analysis and say, okay, well, if we do this, this is what it's going to take to get this completed. Such as if we go with Cedar Road, if we go with the Cedar Road alignment, what are we going to have to do to get there to where we are today? How far back do we have to go? Or if we go to Gauger Road, or if we terminate at I-355, what is this going to entail? So that's what we're going to discuss. In the meantime, we're going to meet with the state toll authority and talk to them about the interchange. Okay? So what I can do is, once we find out the date that we're going to meet, or the various dates, I can send it to all the committee members.
Yeah.
And then we can make a decision on who wants to or not attend.
Would there be any
That
consensus, if I
makes
could just interject one idea here, would there be any consensus amongst the TCC members to eliminate the frontage road concept, either push to existing roads, either Cedar or Gauger and/or the connection at 355? I'm not sure frontage road is a full.
I don't think the frontage road is really viable.
You probably drop
I think
it.
it's either, and since, reading in the Times Weekly about how Cedar's getting widened anyway, and then that's really changed a lot in my mind about, I've been pushing this intersection, but if Cedar is a possibility again, because it's getting widened anyway, let's pursue the highway. I want to keep all our options on the table, but.
But you're, at this point in the frontage road, you're thinking.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
That was brought by the committee. So
Yeah.
that's-
I think it was just put out there as a thought.
Okay.
That's
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I think that we should all be included in this meeting out of fairness, so we have the education to make a choice here. I agree with Ben. His comments were very eloquent. I am certainly not as familiar with the eastern terminus as I am with the Crest Hill side. But I guess our point representing the city of Crest Hill here is that the eastern portion is the one that is requesting this change. And as long as the cost, if there were to be costs involved for changes, should be borne by those entities and not by the city of Crest Hill. That is the purpose that I wanted to make here today, that I will keep all our options open for the future.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll just send a notice.
Yeah,
out.
send them out to everybody. And let
That
them-
way you'll be aware of what's going on. If you want to attend,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay? Well,
And then-
thanks, everybody.
Larry, can I ask one other thing, Larry?
Yes,
So
you
we,
can.
when's our next meeting, like our regular scheduled TCC meeting?
They're not regularly scheduled.
Okay, all right. They should put them on.
They're always in response to an action that required coordination with other agencies that we don't have
Okay.
control over.
How would you feel, Larry, about maybe putting something on the agenda and, within the next month or two? I think now that we've got, a new member on the TCC and, Lauren and Annette, I think we've had a big conversation here in the beginning of this meeting about Fairmont, like maybe we need to just have another meeting where we talk about this area going through Fairmont. Give you guys, Pastor House, some new time with Annette and Lauren to kind of get the feedback, and then we can come back and kind of talk about it, whether it stays where it is and we make sure the walls are down and how it's going to impact positively economically, or whatever discussions needs to happen.
Good idea. Give Pastor House time to get caught up on what any of the issues from before, and probably wants to meet with Bruce and maybe one-on-one, and Bruce can give him some historical information. And maybe in the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks, Mayor, we bring the whole group back together.
Yeah, and like Ben said, we're happy to meet at Lockport City Hall. It's not as crowded. It's up to you guys, however you want to handle it.
Everybody had a seat here.
I'm trying to make it a shorter commute.
Well, we appreciate the offer.
Cross the bridge to get over.
So, see nothing, let this meeting will stand and adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you.